Well, Gauteng police have confirmed that a case of abuse against a Catholic priest has been opened and is under investigation. At a press conference this week, 46-year-old William Segodisho gave shocking details of how he was allegedly groomed and sexually assaulted by a Johannesburg priest for years. After he reported the matter to the church, the suspect was then transferred to the United Kingdom. To discuss this further, we're now joined in studio by Father Anthony Egan, the Society of Jesus spokesperson for the South African Jesuits, which is the Society of Jesus, a religious order of men within the Catholic Church. Good to have you. Thank you very much, Father, for joining us on the program. You know, sexual abuse in the Catholic Church is unfortunately something that's not new. It's one of those shocking stories that constantly rears its ugly head. But how did it feel for you to hear such a story coming out of South Africa?
Devastated, because precisely the person accused was a member of the Jesuits from the British province who had been working in South Africa in the 1980s and went back in 1990. So that was, you know, it's pretty devastating. There have been cases before in South Africa that have been documented. There have been people accused of sexual abuse in the past among the clergy. So in a sense, the claim that it was the first case we've had in South Africa is not so. Yeah. But there certainly is the first case involving a Jesuit. Yeah. And as a Jesuit, I mean, it is
devastating.
Devastating.
Did you know the man in question?
No. I mean, I joined the society the year he went back to Britain. So yeah, we've never met personally in any significant way. We never lived in community. Okay. I think he may have been in the same room with 100 or so other Jesuits at meetings that I've been in Britain, but I can't say I know the man.
Yeah. You know, what scares me mostly is that there's talk about the fact that William had been repeatedly blocked by the Catholic Church to report him for the last 17 years. This is what he has said, to get the priest reported to the police and have him extradited. I mean, this has been going on for a very, very long time now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure of the exact details, but as far as I know, the British Jesuits were informed of this case in about 2000 or 2001. And the moment they heard of the case, they immediately put the person concerned under full suspension, pending investigation, and he has never served in public ministry since then. Yeah. But as far as we can tell, the Jesuits were only told about this in 2000, British Jesuits. Yeah.
So he's never necessarily, as you say, he's never practiced or done anything since this has been reported. But has he ever been held accountable? Has there ever been any case against this guy?
No criminal case, as far as I know.
And that's the scary part. Because, I mean, he has, if in fact it's true, has committed a heinous crime. Yeah. And yet he still has not faced any criminal charges.
Quite right. And I think it's quite clear from the British province of the Jesuits that if the police here pursue the case further, they will cooperate with to the fullest extent of the law. Yeah. I mean, this has got to stop. This kind of crime must stop, and they must, follow the course of the law. Justice must be done.
William Segodisho actually has also said that it was by another priest. He's also been sexually assaulted by another priest. Has this developed into anything else? Do you know any details on this?
I don't have any details on this. This was the priest he referred to that he asked to go to the authorities and apparently didn't, and has subsequently died. Yeah. The one thing I can say, I think for sure, the priest he referred to was murdered. I think, if I recall the press conference, he said that. That is certainly not another Jesuit in Southern Africa, because we haven't had a Jesuit in South Africa murdered. Yeah. So it must be some other priest. There have been a number of priests in South Africa who have been murdered.
You know, it just frightens me, and frightens me more, particularly because I am Catholic and I come from the Catholic Church. And this and these stories, and many more stories, not just in South Africa but globally, are tainting the reputation of priests worldwide. Yeah. What has this done to the Catholic Church and the reputation? And let's focus particularly on South Africa now.
Yeah. Well, we have considered ourselves relatively lucky compared, for example, to the United States. The United States, I was in the United States when the Boston crisis exploded in 2001. It was not pleasant. We've always thought in South Africa that it'd be much less impact. And so far, so good. Compared to the United States, I don't think we've had the level of crises, or perhaps we just haven't had the level of reporting.
That's what I wanted to add.
And that is the question, we don't know.
We don't know.
And so in a sense, yes, there's got to be a major house cleaning everywhere.
Yeah. You know, I would like to bring the Vatican into this, and Pope Francis particularly. Yeah. I know that he has summoned senior bishops from around the world to the Vatican in February next year.
That's right.
To talk about something like this. But, you know, there's a lot of sentiment around the Vatican that they haven't addressed this enough. This has been going on for centuries. Stories are coming out more and more frequently, and yet the Vatican doesn't do enough about this. I mean, what is the response from them?
I think there's serious issues with that, because the Vatican is not quite like the sort of central high command that you might imagine in a totally pyramidal structure. There are sort of local authorities under each bishop. And so there is a whole question of devolution of power and how far the Vatican can extend that sort of policy to everywhere. So there are policies and protocols in place for different periods of time. In different countries, and each one is slightly different, and some are good and some are not so good. And that whole problem about how to sort of coordinate a clear policy of dealing with abuse, resolving any crises, transparency to the public, to the media, and ultimately, of course, the most important thing, and perhaps we must estimate above all, justice for the victim. I think that's something we've got to do.
I mean, that's the most important
And
part.
I think the real problem now is, because the church itself is often far less coordinated than we might imagine, the attempt to get it to be more coordinated in its policy, that is, I think, what is going to be Francis's big challenge next year.
Yeah.
I don't envy him.
I certainly don't envy him, and I also, I mean, I don't envy any religious order that has to have these kind of controversies around it. So let's just end it off by talking about, as far as this particular case is going to be dealt with, how? Any other news further? What is the South African diocese saying? What are we expecting to see further after these allegations have now been brought forward?
Well, I think the primary thing we now are waiting for is some kind of action on the behalf of the South African criminal justice system. The British province of the Jesuits have made it clear that they will cooperate, and so obviously now it will be a question of how to proceed with the case from South Africa's perspective, and obviously it will also bring in the question of the British criminal justice system, because obviously one of the issues that will arise will be extradition.
Yes, indeed.
How to deal with it? Will they deal with it? Would there be other ways and means of dealing with it? But that is, in a sense, now the initiative is in the hands of basically the police in South Africa and the authorities. Yeah. The British Jesuits have said quite clearly they are cooperating fully with whatever happens.
All investigations, and also, I imagine, priests that do come in from overseas, that come and serve here. They surely have to adhere to certain standards and norms, and also go through some processes.
Well, since the problems have arisen, every priest now has to go through careful checking. If I work in Britain, I go through a police check the moment I arrive there. I'm not allowed to function in public there. Same here. Working as I do in a public setup, every 2 years I go for police checks. This is the standard procedure we follow now. It's not simply a case you arrive and you get in there. There is a whole process of vetting that we have to go through if we move.
Father, thank you very much for talking to us here on the program. Father Anthony Egan, he's from the South African Jesuits. It's a society of Jesus, a religious order of men within the Catholic Church, talking to us about the reaction to allegations and Gauteng police confirming that a case of abuse has been opened against a Catholic priest for abuse from a 46-year-old man. This was many years ago, but he's come forward to report it now. All right, let's take a break. We've got more after this. Do stay tuned.